Good morning, everybody. It's Jim Johnson here, the head coach at Contractor Coach Pro, and we are in this week's edition of the Contractor Training Room and our Contractor Radio podcast. And we have a real rock star with us today. Those of you that are Facebook folks and in this insurance restoration side of the roofing industry, most of you probably know our guest. He's been doing this for about 20 years now, a little over 20 years. And he just has this thing about him. It's like, I've watched him over the last few years, and he's been impressive with how he handles himself. He is very consistent. He's got strong faith. He tries to do things right. And we're going to ask him a bunch of questions today. So welcome aboard, Justin Reichl, to Contractors Training Room. Glad to have you today, man.
What's up, Jimmy? How you doing, buddy?
Good. Real good, man.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited about it. Like I said, I followed you for a while, and it's like, hey, I want to get this guy on one of these days because he seems to be one of those guys that does it right. I've had a few conversations leading up to this, and my suspicions were accurate. You are one of those guys that does it right. And so kind of just give like a little brief history, like how'd you get into this and kind of that early years kind of start situation.
Man, it was 1999, and I had actually met this girl we got invited to a party, and we were up at the top of the penthouse hanging out, and her dad had a Ferrari and a helicopter. And we were sitting there talking. I was like, dude, what does your dad do? And she looked at me, she goes, he's a roofer. I was like, a roofer? Wow. And I thought, man, I could do that, right? And man, got all excited. I left her party, went home. I got online, looked up, ads for roofing salesmen and sent out a few interviews. And about 2 days later, Joe Needham from Needham Re-Roofing called me back, and I went in and met with him and was with him for a little bit, and then started our own deal in 2000.
Wow, that's kind of a funny connection there, because we were talking before we hopped on here. I was doing some work while I was in Florida, and my commercial work, I passed off to Needham Roofing and Joe. So I know.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild.
Small world.
Yeah, that is a small world. That's crazy. I did not know that. So that's kind of cool. So
that's what I started with.
So you started with those guys. Where to go from there? How long were you a sales guy, and kind of how have you progressed along?
Sold for him for probably a little over a year, and then a big storm hit in Tulsa, Oklahoma in April 2000, and went probably about 6 months late to that storm, and just knocked doors every day. Decks. Months, me and my wife, we did everything. We knocked the doors, we ran the materials, answered all the phone calls, we did everything.
I noticed that, like, you and your wife have this great relationship. So I'm going to assume that, so from earlier in your conversation, you said you were at a party, met this girl, met the dad, and you're like, what does he do, right? And you didn't call him. Like, you went back and you looked up other roofing companies. So it must not have been that tight of a connection. I'm going to assume there's a different. It
was just a lady at the party,
okay.
And I was like, whoa, and it was her party, but so she was the one that told me her dad was a roofer,
All right, gotcha.
Pretty wild, pretty crazy story, and it's been just going at it ever since.
Yeah, and I've noticed, like, your wife is a big part of your life. Like, that's your relationship is tight. You're with her all the time. I was looking through Facebook to try and grab a photo of you that I could put on here for, like, the Justin picture, right? But every single picture is you and your wife and you and your kids, like this super strong family. How have you been able to accomplish that through, like, this is a tough business. It is. You travel, you're on the road a lot. It's just all that stuff. How do you balance that stuff?
That's my wife, man. She's just probably my greatest accomplishment, honestly. She always gets it done, and she doesn't complain. She does it with a full heart, and it's really amazing because I get to run around the country and sell roofs, and I fly home every weekend though, right? I don't miss the weekend, so I usually travel Monday through Thursday or Friday, and then I'm home, Friday, and then leave again Monday during storm season, of course.
So where is home now? Florida? Is that home base? Okay.
Yeah, moved to Florida 2 years ago now.
Okay. And are you originally from Tulsa, or where are you from originally?
I was born in Minnesota.
Ah.
Yeah.
99. You're the same storm I was in, because I started in 98, that same storm.
That was a big one. So I was actually in Dallas when 99 hit. It was a storm that I worked in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved to Dallas when I was 7, grew up there, and then moved to Tulsa when I was, however old I was, whenever, 21 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Cool. So like you started up there young, and then you actually met it in Dallas. Got it. All right. And well, Dallas is the mecca of hailstorms, right? Like it's just
Right?
where it happens. Those guys think that stuff's supposed to happen every year, and everybody else is
Amazing
over
guys
there.
in Dallas, man. They're
Yeah.
unbelievable. I don't know how they do it, but they kill it.
There's a little bit of competition there. Every time somebody calls
Oh,
me like, "Hey, I'm thinking about going and getting set up in Dallas," I'm like, "Dude, don't do that. You're just asking for brutalness right there." So, as you've kind of grown through this industry and been, like in it, like really in it, sales guy, have you managed before, like managed a bunch of people and that kind of stuff? Any of that?
yeah. I mean, I've owned my own thing for forever. And man, we used to have 50, 60 salesmen. 2008, we probably did 30 million, right around 30 million,
Wow.
about 3,000 roofs, and then we traveled all over New York, Wyoming, wherever the storms would hit. And man, it was just the same thing. Always. It was always doing the residential thing, all that stuff. And about 4 years ago, we got taken to Mexico by SRS, maybe about 5 years ago, on a Top Gun trip. And I met the hunters, because I'm sure everybody's wondering how I got involved with them. But I met them and was looking him up online and looking up all this beautiful roofs that they do. They build pretty roofs. And my wife was like, dude, you guys got to start selling better roofs. I was like, you're right. And so went and basically stopped what we were doing, and I learned from one of the best. It's probably one of the coolest things. Hard decision, but I wish I would have done that earlier. I wish I would have learned from someone longer, at the beginning.
Yeah.
It would probably save me a lot of heartache through those years, a lot of
Yeah, that's why we exist, man. Like
Right.
as I was out there, selling AccuLinks to people, because that's what my previous life was to this. And before that, I was an actual contractor doing $25-40 million a year, meeting with those folks at AccuLinks. It'd take about an hour to get them to buy AccuLinks. And it was like, so how'd you have, all these locations and run that many salespeople, and how'd you have it set up, and how'd you pay people? There's all those questions. And so that's kind of why we became a thing, right?
So
Like,
let me ask you a question. You told me something the other day, and it blew my mind. So you're actually the real rock star, right? Like a couple years ago, I sold and did 8 million. Matt Irvin did 11 million. We had one of our guys this year do 13 million, but you said you did 28 million in sales one year? Is that what you said?
27.3.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was in Houston, Texas, Hurricane Ike. It was
Unbelievable.
like they say, the perfect storm, right? Like you have the information, you have the knowledge. There's no such thing as luck, right? Like I don't think you luck into anything, but you have the right amount of information, the right amount of knowledge, the right amount of people, the right amount of experience, and one of those things happen, and one of your best friends is a property manager, things turn out pretty good, right? Like I grew up with them.
Wow.
So,
What was the biggest job you ever sold?
man, probably somewhere around 2.5 million. Nothing like,
And that's in 2003 though,
yeah,
right?
2008 was Hurricane Ike.
So was that before or after the price increase?
That was before the pricing, because the
That
prices
is
didn't
crazy.
increase really in Texas until 2010, maybe 2012 even. Like it's been pretty recent for that. Yeah, so no,
All
just one of those things, man. Things worked out well, and it was really good. There was also a lot of trials and tribulations. There's folks that didn't pay and stuff like that whenever it came time to get things done, and not my guy, but people that were doing the work, because I was more of a consultant. Like I would go get the work
right.
and
Yeah.
give it to somebody, and they were supposed to like pay me. So, well, don't worry about that. We'll talk about that stuff later.
Yeah. Imagine
But
that
it,
in
it
this
did work
business,
out well. It did work out well.
right?
So there's a question I always ask everybody, and I forgot to ask it to you up front, so I'm going to ask it to you now. Not including getting married, your kids, or family in any way, shape, form, or fashion,
Yeah.
what's your greatest achievement to this point in life?
Man, I thought you're talking about in this business, right?
Just anything, your greatest achievement,
No
not
family.
including, because that's the default, right? Like we say, hey, we got married to this great person, or we got great kids.
Right.
That's the easy
Right.
one. Like,
I made a couple of decisions, and that were tough to make. Like I told you, kind of getting out from what I was always used to and going and learning from somebody that was doing something awesome. That was hard, but I think that was leading up to what we're doing now was a huge achievement. And, also in this business, I'm sure everybody else has lose so many best friends because your mindset's wrong. So a few years ago, I changed my mindset for like, you know what, I'm gonna bring these guys in. I want to be like a high school football coach to them. Bring them for 3 or 4 years. And then if they go, man, they're gonna awesome and I'll support them forever and I'll be with them and love them. And if they stay, even better, right? Where it wasn't always like that. So that's been huge. It's been huge for my relationships and just everything. So, those couple of things were, I think, pretty big achievements leading forward, as I move on.
Man, that's powerful. Like you mentioned mindset, right? Like when we're younger and we don't know sometimes, like, and maybe there might be this epiphany moment in your life, whatever that may be. I remember mine was about 15 years ago. Early on, man, it was all about that money. Like I could sell it. I sold like 108 jobs in the span of 3 months. And I like my very first 3 months in the business, I can remember calling my wife and going, hey, after 2 weeks, I'd sold 42. And I called her, I'm like, hey, I don't know what this is, but it's amazing. And you're not going to see me for a couple of years. Like I am going to go set ourselves like in a way that you couldn't imagine. And so it's like all about that money. I used to picture like the door was $1,000 bill. Like every time I would knock on a door, it's like $1,000 bill. And that worked for a while. It really did. It worked for a while. And like I got the stuff and the houses and the boats and all like that all went really well, but I still didn't like feel good. Like there was no fulfillment. There was no like, wow, man, I feel like I've arrived. Like everything's great. And like I kept like still wanting something. Yeah. And it really was a kind of a prayer moment for me. I'm like, where am I missing this? And whenever I pray, I don't know, this is kind of weird for me. People talk about God talking to him and stuff like that. I've never had one of those like hear a voice experience, but there's usually a word. There's like a word that resonates as I'm having one of those prayer moments. And that word was serve, like just serve. So I started looking up everything about serving, started reading everything in the Bible about serve, like how do I serve? And I started doing that with my folks, and very similar to you. Like there's a reason it's called Contractor Coach Pro, not Consultant Pro. I like baseball hats. I'm a sports guy. I played sports growing up. And so we created a sports team. We were there to create a dynasty, and we wanted you to be on our team, and we were about winning, and it was about being that coach and giving you fundamentals training and giving you the stuff you needed to be really good. And man, once we kind of flipped to that, things really turned out pretty cool. And I've kind of carried that on anywhere I've gone after that. So we got a lot of similarities there.
Right. And that's one of our core values. Our core values are to serve, to sacrifice, and to deliver. And if we all do that and everybody on our team does that, everybody wins, from our customers to the people that work with us, to us as owners, to our families. And, it's just.
Awesome. So that's you said one that I haven't heard before. Like, man, that's what we do. We coach like how to find your purpose and your why and why you're doing what you're doing, core values, mission, that kind of stuff. And you used one I've never heard before, sacrifice. What is, like, how would you explain that to one of your people coming to work for you?
Well, if those 3 things basically embody Christ, right? Mm-hmm. What he did is what he did for us. And if we can do that in everything, from your wife asking you to do something you don't want to do, right?
Lots of that.
Right? Your kids need you to do something. One of your guys calls you and needs you to do something. You make the sacrifice. And your customers want you to do something that's, whatever. You sacrifice. If you just keep that up there, it's simple, right? That's just part of what we do. And it's awesome, right? Because it works.
It is like, it's so funny. Like once that changed for me, and once I started like putting that first, like how can I just serve better? Like figure that part out, serve. And I quit worrying about the money side of it. Things just became even that much better. Like and you got to do it genuinely. It can't be like I'm serving so I get something, right? It's got to be like I'm serving because I genuinely want to, and I want to be, a servant to you in whatever way or fashion I possibly can. When that's authentic and real,
100%.
People can't avoid to be involved with you. Like they just want to. They want to be a part of whatever it is that you're doing. And we had this cool event this past weekend. I wasn't going to really talk about this because this is our stuff, but this Storm into the New Era thing. Oh. And I heard the word God mentioned more times in 3 days in this industry than I have in my entire career otherwise. It was amazing to see people have a passion for the spiritual side, and not like, hey, holy roller, any of that kind of stuff. Just knowing that there is something bigger than us out there. And so how do you like walk that fine line in your business? Because sometimes, people always talk about, like, if you have the fish on your truck or you have a verse on your truck, like, that's the guy to watch out for, right? And
Right.
so,
True. That usually is the guy to watch out for.
yeah. So bringing that into our business and being able to talk about that, how do you make that work in your business?
I made a post the other day that said our lives are consequences based on the choices we make, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we make those choices consistently to do what we're supposed to do, all the other stuff follows, right? It's not about a fish on our car. It's about answering your phone, when someone needs something, handling it, and just living that life, right? And doing that. So
yeah, before we hopped on here live, you were telling me a story. So I want you to share that with these guys, like this answering your phone thing. You were working for somebody before this, and just
so I was in the hair restoration business, and I was selling men's hair.
I could do some of that.
a company in Dallas, Texas. Actually met the guy at church, and it was great, right? I was young and probably making $100,000 a year back in 97, 98, and selling men's hair, basically selling wigs, kind of, right?
Right.
And, I told these guys what would happen and these ladies, and this dude that owned this company would have a stack of pink slips on his desk, like that thick, like 20, 30, 40 people that would call and be like, dude, call him back. Oh, I'll get to him eventually. I'm like, it drove me crazy. But that's just, I learned so much from that. Don't be him, And so when the worst phone calls come in, those are the ones I answer. Like, oh no, I don't want to, that's not a good one, but I got to answer it. Right.
I can remember, man, I hated those phone calls. I'm like, because when you're in that position of leadership, wherever it is, whether you're leading a team or you're the sales manager, production manager, general manager, owner, it always flows like uphill until it just hits critical. Right.
Right.
And I can remember at one point I was like, God, man, why can't my people just do their thing and address these things and resolve these issues? And I hated those. I really violently hated them, and I didn't want to answer them either. And when I did, I had the wrong attitude about it, but kind of switch that around and go, hey, this is just another challenge. And how can I handle this better than the one before that? And how can I solve this person's problem in a way that they're happy? Now, you can't make everybody happy. I wish you could. But as long as I do my part, I feel like I've done something that's what I was asked to do. Yeah, it's all you can do, right?
Absolutely.
So, as far as sales goes, let's just talk sales. Like, that's a lot of these guys listening today. We've got 35 people on here and another 100 or two watching on Facebook here. So let's talk. You got following, man. You got following. There's people who are like, Justin's going to be on. Let's listen. Well, it was funny. And I'll get back to what I was just going to say, but we talked before this, and I said, I'd love to have you on my podcast and do that. And you were like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, man, I'm surprised you haven't been on any others. Like I would expect, like, you would be on there, and you're like, oh, I've been asked. And your words back to me meant a lot. And I'll share them if that's okay with you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. You said, yeah, I haven't done them before, but I know you're a brother in Christ, so I'm up for it. And just so you know, you're doing a great job. You're fantastic. You should do more. You got a great message. And people need that type of influence out there. And to know it's okay. To know it's okay to just do things right. You don't have to cut corners and stuff like that. I like the idea of being able to be able to walk through the grocery store with my head up, walk around town with my head up, and that type of thing. So back to sales. Okay. If one thing, like this is a new guy listening today, there's one thing that would be the piece of advice you'd give him, what would it be?
It's one word. It's just consistency. You got to go to work. Paul Reed said a long time ago, get out of your truck. I don't remember where he was at or wherever, but just get off your ass and get out of your truck, right? And that's it. You got to go to work every day in sales.
We used to use that in ours. The hardest door to get open is the one to your truck.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Just get that. Like if you can like open that one, you're halfway there, man. Just go knock on the door at that
Yeah.
point,
Still knock on the
or
door.
go to the appointment, or get in and do a marketing. Maybe door knocking isn't your thing. I mean, there's some cool ways to find business these days. If you
Still works better than anything. I mean, that's one thing that hasn't changed since I started this in '99. This right here still works 100% better than everything else.
I call it instant business for low cost advertising. Like
Right.
right now, I can go get a job. All I got to do is get out of my truck, go knock a door, and I can go get a job.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it should ever be like not a thing. As a matter of fact, we had like a way of looking at it. We teach to a lot of our contractors that it's not a situation of you're selling. You shouldn't even look at it like that. It's a responsibility to educate, because all these people, they've got a problem. We know they have a problem. There's another entity that knows they have a problem too, the insurance companies. They're sure as heck not going to call them and say, hey, you should make a claim.
Yeah.
Although I saw USA with this ad on TV saying they notify the guy.
I just saw that. Was that during the football game or something?
I'm like, I haven't heard that one yet.
Crazy.
A neat commercial, but I haven't heard anybody actually like deal with that. But it's like a responsibility on our part to like, they're not going to do it. We need to let you know at least, and I can hop up there and let you.
Absolutely.
I can verify one way or the other, and then you can take it from there if you want to. Pretty easy thing to do. It's not like everybody kind of feels like slimy knocking on the door. This is the one I was like, man, this isn't some door-to-door sales.
You're educating people that their property has, 250, 500, $1 million worth of damage on their property that they have no idea. I mean, what a blessing we are to them to go help them.
Yeah, that's a blessing, man. That's a great way to put it. We are a blessing to you, just showing up and knocking on your door. It's lucky it was us, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you talked about like my year. What's your best year?
Man, I probably wouldn't. It was 8 million a couple years ago that I sold and did, and then Matt Irvin smoked me the next year at 11 million.
So that's a interesting relationship the two of you guys have.
Right.
And really throw in Eric Hunter into that group too. Like it seems like the three of you, you're all on Facebook. It seems like all the time. I don't know how you do what you do and be on Facebook and do the things you do, but there's this strange dynamic with the three of you, or interesting might be even a better word. You guys genuinely enjoy each other. Why is that?
Man, that's a great question. We, you know what? Just Eric's an awesome guy. Micah's amazing. If you're on SVG, go vote for Micah for Woman of the Year.
Oh yeah.
Right. If you're on here, Facebook Live or whatever this thing is, go vote for Micah Hunter on SVG. But there's awesome people,
and Precision, and vote for Precision for
Residential Roofer of the Year.
Top Residential Roofer of the Year.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I did yesterday. Both of them.
Great. Yeah, me too.
Click them down.
And so they're awesome. But me and Matt went to go. I went to learn from Eric, like I told you, and then Matt actually saw what I was doing with Eric, and he showed my house in a little pink Prius, and we stayed up all night showing each other our software programs that we've used forever and talking about our guys. And then we worked together for a few years. And then we partnered up whenever that hurricane hit in Florida. We became business partners. So now we're partners in Restore Masters. And, if there's anybody on here also that is stuck in their business and want to learn from someone great in the commercial side of it, we're your guys. Call us. We can help.
Yeah. So that as a thing, like you wanted to build pretty roofs and do some bigger, here's my attitude. This is why I got into the commercial side of it. Like, hey, that's one customer I got to keep happy instead of 100. And so that's why I didn't start there. It took many years of gaining knowledge and learning. And I didn't have anybody out there that I could go to. Back in those days, guys were like, I'm not telling you anything, buddy. And so you had to rely on manufacturers knowing a little bit. You had to rely on suppliers knowing a little bit, and then kind of learn by fire. I mean, it really was. There wasn't this access to information, which for me, I think that's the biggest thing that's changed in this industry in the last really 5-6 years. Just access to information, this knowledge, and this willingness actually to
crazy
get out there. Yeah.
People call me with a question I don't know, right? I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I got some amazing people on my phone that I can text, and they're like, yeah, dude, no problem. And here's blah, blah, blah. Right. And it's awesome. I mean, just people being willing to answer questions at the drop of a hat,
Yeah,
And
it's why we do this.
great.
Like this doesn't cost anybody anything. We do this for free. We want people to learn, get better at what they do, kind of set that bar a little bit higher, and hopefully we're kind of that pebble in the pond, and these waves go out and saying, "Hey, man, this industry can be done right and still make a great living, and actually probably do better than doing it wrong and kind of trying to run around the backside of things."
Yeah.
So are you telling me Eric's hiring? Like if somebody wanted to learn that stuff, he'd hire him and say, "Hey, I can teach you how to do these pretty roofs." And it sounds like you're hiring too. Like, "Hey, man, I love this stuff too."
I'm sure Eric's he's always hiring, right? But yeah, we're hiring too.
And that's a funny.
Don't call Eric.
That's don't call. Boy, that's gonna. I can't wait to see the comments on that one. So it's like, "Thanks a lot, buddy. Taught you all this stuff, and now you're shoot me down." So what do you think is going to be the things that change in the near future? Like as this industry continues on, how do you see it changing?
Just I guess would be the billing side of it changing, right? You see all the, I'm calling Eric.
Yeah. Christian Coleman's like, "I'm calling Eric."
He won't answer his phone. Don't worry. I'm just kidding. He's always answers his phone. Just the billing side of it. I saw a deal the other day with hospitals having to, show all their billing or prices up front or whatnot. I think that's all going to change very, very soon. All the insurance companies using their, what are they, the repair programs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much that can ever happen, but that's probably one of the biggest issues that we're going to face.
Yeah, I think just this, like we said, technology, access to information, more and more of it, more transparency. I think that's something that we're going to see. Now, I do want to remind the people, you guys are on the webinar aspect of this. If you want to ask questions of Justin, feel free to throw them up there. If you want to learn something from somebody that has been there, done it, and probably done, a wide variety of and done well more than I have. Like he's been a contractor the whole entire time, like from 99 till now, one way or the other as a salesperson, learning from another company, having his own company. This would be a great time to ask those questions. And if you're on Facebook Live as well, throw them in there and our team will like grab them from over there and put them in here. But who's had the most impact on you in this industry? Like this one person, whether it be in the industry or outside the industry, like a mentor type thing, who's been that person for you or people?
Sales wise, probably Matt Irvin, honestly. That dude works harder than anybody. I thought I worked a lot, and dude, he just inspires me like crazy. It's just, so I'm gonna have to throw that up to him. He's a beast. And
we'll have to get that guy on here soon.
He's inspired me to just keep my foot to the pedal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're been doing this forever, and sometimes you go through that, as Anthony would call it, bell-shaped curve or whatnot. Well, we don't have that around here. We're always going. And so he's been a huge inspiration just to keep going, keep pushing hard.
Now, were you friends before this industry, or just because of the industry?
We met on Facebook.
Okay, so I was kind of watching you guys as you met. Then I remember kind of that conversation. That's interesting because you kind of started off like, and then it was like constantly talking to each other. All right. So when it comes to your wife, right? Like she obviously loves you, cares for you. What are some of the things that she's said to you as you go through all of this that have inspired you and kept you going?
Why are you still here? Like storm will hit. I'm looking at it on my phone. She's like, "Why are you still here? Get out of here!" Right? She's like, "Go." And seriously, like she's like, "I see that. I hear that dinging on your phone. Why are you still here?" All the people calling, "Hey, how's that storm? How's it?" And over and over and over, for 20 years. Why are you still here?
So she's a little bit of that driving force, huh? Like she pushes you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She's awesome, dude. She's a beast.
So one of the things I noticed that's a similarity between, contractors and sales guys and just who we are in this industry, the ones that are like successful, influencers. I got called an influencer the other day, and then I've gotten called that like 5 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, what in the world? Aren't those like the models on Instagram and stuff like that? I don't really understand what that even is. But
I think Jonathan Sherwood is the influencer this year, right?
I think so. Yeah, he seems like that dude's everywhere.
Dude,
Yeah,
he's awesome.
I didn't even know who he was a year ago. Now he's like everywhere, and the dude is awesome. I got to
I
meet
voted
him.
for him for most influence.
So, yeah, like we have this opportunity, right? All of us that being on this digital media, doing what we do, we have this opportunity to impact people either positively or negatively, and and we see a lot of the negative. Like I see that in these threads and people being frustrated with stuff and things like that, right? And their first reaction tends to be to go to negative. Like that's just human instinct, is to kind of go to negative. I'm seeing more and more go to positive, more and more like intentional about it, like really thinking like, hey, before I make this comment or do this thing, can I possibly be positive about it instead of negative? And I noticed that about you. Like anytime you're on one of those things, it's pretty rare. You might have a lot of humor in it, but you're not negative. I haven't seen any of that. Is that intentional by you? Is that purposeful?
Well, of course.
You smile all the time.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nobody's gonna listen to you, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People was a huge book I read a long time ago, and never criticize, condemn, or complain anybody, right? The 3 C's, and that's no reason to ever complain, no reason to be negative. Nobody wants to hear it.
Okay, so it looks like we got a couple of questions, and I agree with you. No, I mean, nobody wants to hear you gripe and complain, right? And so there's first questions from Josh Hudson: line item pricing versus total project pricing. How do you handle that? And do you have success getting carrier to agree to total project price, or are you stuck playing the claim game like line item stuff?
The claim game is, it is what it is, right? You have to call and you have to make sense. You have to know what you're talking about. If you can explain it to the person on the other end of the phone, you can get your total project paid for, but you have to explain the line items to them. If you're just saying, I need $1 million, they're not going to give you $1 million.
It's got to be justifiable and reasonable.
You have to justify it. You have to make it make sense, and you have to prove it to them that you need that money, and you're good. And we can do that, right?
Yeah, Steve Patrick uses that quite a bit: justifiable and reasonable. Yeah. And I think he has the word righteous on there as well. But I think the smaller companies, they put together whatever it is, their estimate or their proposal, and it's got this price on it. It goes to the insurance company. As long as it fits within what the insurance company can do line item wise in their own stuff, they're usually okay with it. Now, the bigger you get and the more impact you have, they're going to want to see you kind of line item that stuff out and get on board with what it is that they do. I don't necessarily agree with that. We actually work with a lot of contractors that don't do that anymore. They actually say, hey, this is our project. This is what's included with it. This is our price. And your insurance company isn't ever going to pay what we charge. They don't do that. We put on, and they don't pitch, a good, better, best. They pitch better, best, and fall back to the rest if we have to.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of a different way of looking at it, but you get this customer to buy from you, and you're not having to deal with the insurance company. You supply them your invoice, they give it to the insurance company, and it's between them and the insurance company, where we're still helping them with that. So we're still giving them the service and the education, but we're not having to deal with it, all the way down the line on that residential stuff. So let's get to another question here. We got one from Christian Kuhlman, which is maybe the best last name I've ever seen. Like Cool Man.
Kuhlman?
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yeah, I'm going to change my name now. So what's your personal response statement? We tried before and got denied. I always ask if a contractor was present, et cetera. How do I explain that we are different and can get them approved? I take denied claims often and get approval, but how do I communicate that to a customer who got denied in the past and had a negative experience?
That's a great question. Usually those are my favorite ones, right? I mean, if there's damage and they got denied, it's a no-brainer. We just show them who we are, show them, you can show them our past successes and sign them up. They need us now. Like if they tried on their own, got denied, now they really need you. Right. So,
it's like no skin off your back, man. Yeah. It's kind of a no skin off your back at that point, right? Like, I guess we might as well go for it then.
I love it too, because, you're trying to get big jobs, and sometimes the property owner, they think they're smart and then go do it on their own. And then 6, 7, 8 months later, they call and say, hey, I got denied. I tried to do that on my own. You're like, yes. You're like, all right, now I got it, right? So sometimes those are my favorite calls.
Yeah, it kind of depends upon the property too. Like if you're working commercial, that's kind of one approach. If you're working residential, it's a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did, Christian, if you're up for it, you got to take a few notes, but it's a situation where those people that you've helped in the past, get them to give you a little testimonial, whether that's on video or written or whatever it is, and keep that handy with you and say, hey, Mr. Jones, I've had lots of people just like you that have been denied before. Here's a list of all of them that actually got new roofs. You can call any one of them that you want to. Here's actually a video from somebody. This is why you want to work with a company like ours. We don't just rely on the insurance company to say what they're going to say. If you got a problem, we'll help you get it resolved. If you don't, I'm going to tell you that too.
And
so
show them.
That's helped.
Show them the examples. Have them print it out. Have the insurance paper where it showed your, 20,000 they offered or 5,000 they offered, and you got them 100,000 or whatever those prices are. They believe what they see. So have it ready for them to see.
Yeah, proof is proof, man. Like if you can prove it to them, they're a lot more likely to say yes to you than maybe not.
Right.
So, what do you like most about this industry? Like, what's
the thing? It's fun. It's life changing. Like if people really want to make a change and they really want to do something with their life, they can do it in this industry, hands down. If you're willing to go to work and be a better person, you're unstoppable. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're hungry, and so we have this frustration in this business, right? Like, we know we got this cool thing, and it's something where you can be very successful at it. You can do it the right way and be very successful at it. It's like when you say roofer, there's a certain connotation that goes with that with the general public. And so we get frustrated because we see these good guys out there, right? Like these good guys that if they would just take that leap and get into this, and they say no to us, right? We go to hire them or interview them and they go, no, it doesn't work for me. Why do you think that is? And does it happen to you? Like, have you had that happen to you? And why?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I was replying to his question over there.
No problem. We'll handle his questions as we go.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry.
No problem. So one of the things I see, like, first off, anybody that you hire into this industry has to have that hunger and desire, right? Like they've got to be about something. And a lot of times we lose out on those good ones because they think they're about is what it is that they do. And so they say, hey, I don't want to be a roofing salesman because I'm about, look at me, right? There's this ego thing. And like, man, I don't want to tell anybody I sell roofing. And that doesn't seem like an A-list job or anything like that. But if you can adjust what you're about is, it seems like we might be able to change that. Have you had any experience with that? Like when you're hiring people, like you see this great guy, you're like, God, man, he's going to be a rock star. He goes, no, I'm not being a roofing salesman.
Dude, one of our best guys right now, he's sold and built 13 million last year for us. And we're actually doing an $8 million job for him right now. He was in the car business, right? Wore suit and tie and pretty shiny shoes and blah, blah, blah. I'm not knocking doors. Like, what do you mean you knock doors? Like, is his answer, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we deal with it all the time. But you just got to, show them. They see the proof's in the pudding, right? They see what we're accomplishing. They see what we're doing. And I think it's easy for them to make that choice once they see that we even do it. As owners, we still go out and knock. Eric Hunter still goes and knocks doors. Matt knocks doors. We knock doors. Why wouldn't you want to knock doors?
Yeah, we call that leading from the front, right? Like, right? Hey, I'm going to go do that thing. Now, I remember when I owned mine, I didn't knock doors every day, but at least once or twice a month, because we had multiple locations on it. So like once or twice a month, man, I'd be like, hey, this Saturday we're going. I'm going to go knock doors and nobody can beat me. I will beat all of you. Anybody that beats me, I'll pay you. Right. Like that was always my attitude. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it better than anybody else. Right. And we had a lot of fun with that. It was always a good time. So let's get to a couple more questions here. I guess I was asking more as if a contractor was present. Thank you for the advice. And you want to go ahead and say what your answer was there?
Well, yeah, I said, if someone ever says that to me, I said, man, I'm sorry you signed with them in the first place. You should have had us there. You chose the wrong guy. Now I'm here. Let's do this, right? You get us. You get me. That's one of my good lines. Like, hey, you get me. You get my cell phone.
And you and I have a lot in common. I'm like, thank God that didn't work out with that guy. Now you got me. Right? I'm the best of the best at doing this. And here's the things that he should have done. And so I list them off. Did he do those things? And 9 times out of 10, no, he didn't. He didn't do
Right.
those things. He didn't build a report. He didn't build an exact date. He didn't do the documentation. He didn't do those things. He just walked up on a roof and let the insurance adjuster go, no, that's really all that he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
And so unless you have that documentation, unless you have that knowledge and that education, it's hard to help these guys out sometimes.
Big time.
So we got a question, and I'm not sure if it's from Nathan or from somebody else, but what do you feel is your personal purpose? How do you know you're fulfilling it?
You talked earlier about how you felt like after you got all the boats and the cars and all that, you just weren't fulfilled. Kind of had that feeling back in like 2008 after we had some huge storms and had everything and, been through the ups and the downs and everything was amazing. And I kind of had that same feeling, lost some friends, had some of our sales guys commit suicide and was like, what are we doing here? Why, it was tough. It was hard to go through all that kind of stuff. And I read that book, Wild at Heart. I don't know if you've ever read it or not.
Have not read that one, but
Wild at Heart. And it just reiterated, like when I got into this business, I was messed up. I was addicted to drugs, had a problem with air. And I got into this business and when I was about to have my first kid, I was actually almost getting divorced from my wife. And luckily I had a guy call me and tell me to start being the man God wanted me to be. Right. And so moving forward through that, you still kind of lose what you're doing. But the purpose was in this business, we can help guys that are struggling to change their lives around. And we give them a vehicle to use that maybe nobody else will give them. Maybe they can't wear a shirt and tie to work, but you know what? They're willing to go out every day and work their tail off and make something of themselves and make their wife or their kids or whoever proud, make themselves proud. And that's what I love about what we do. I love it.
Yeah, I don't believe in lost causes, but they have to be ready too. Like there's people that are ready and people that aren't whenever it's in that situation. So you hit a couple things. That was super powerful. That kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't quite expecting that. Like I've had some rough things happen in my home business and stuff, but I've never had like somebody commit suicide. Like was that because of the business itself or the intensity of it, or was it something that they had a problem? Or
yeah,
I don't want to dig into something we don't want to talk about, but
no, you bring people in and sometimes they have those issues. They have those issues that they're bringing with them. And like you said earlier, you have multiple locations, you got businesses all over, and you can't spend every day talking to everybody in your business, right? And then they fall out, they fall back, they mess up. And that one time they mess up is fatal sometimes, and that was tough. That was hard, and then I met another one of my close friends. He's like, Justin, that's not your responsibility. And that helped a lot. But still you feel like it is when they're part of your organization in life and they're your friend,
Yeah. Hey, so I've had those times in my life too. And the same thing, like there's just happens to be this guy that walks into your life at that point for some reason or another, don't know why, that says, hey, it's okay. That wasn't you. It wasn't this, or it was you. And this is what you need to do about it. Like sometimes it's like tough love. Right.
Right.
And so I've had people like that, whether it was a neighbor across the street when I was growing up, and he kind of took me under his wing and saw some of the issues that I was struggling with, pastors that I've had, mentors that I've had, just like going, hey, dude, chill out a little bit. It's going to be okay. And that's our responsibility, I think, as leaders, like to look for that, like, hey, be aware, guys. And so how do you handle that today? Like you still have some of those issues, right? Like you got other locations and things going on. And is there something that you teach your leaders to say, hey, be watching for this?
Yeah, not everybody knows what they're looking at, right? Like I'll talk to Matt and I'm like, oh, dude, that guy's, there's a problem with him. He's like, what are you talking about? He just has no idea. He never came through that road, right? And so he just doesn't, people just don't know, So when people are acting weird, it's tough. It's hard to watch everybody, I don't know. It's just, especially in our interviewing now, like, right, I told you our core values: to serve and to sacrifice and to deliver. And if you're not on that path now, then we make a little different choices.
You don't even come to work here, right? Like,
exactly.
If you're not that person, you're going to hate working here.
Yeah.
If you are not that person but want to be that person, we can help you get there, right? Like that. Exactly. That's a big key part. So Christian says, hey, Justin, very humble. I had drug issues as well and turned it all over to God. Thank you for your honesty. Man, it's just been day after day after day of this ever since, like, even 2 weeks before starting the new era. We have been like working on some things. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, I'm going to send some information out about it to Friday. Like that's my D-Day. Put a D-Day on it. It's been on my heart for quite a while now. We moved from Houston to here in the San Antonio area. So I don't have that church and the spiritual surroundings that I had before. And when you don't have that, you tend to get a little off track sometimes. And so my wife and I, we reset with devotionals, and we're trying to do that stuff between us. And I said, hey, you know what, honey, it'd be really cool. Like, I want to get a men's group together because I need that. Like this guys that can talk to guys. You can't always talk to your wife about everything that guys deal with. And I said, I'd like to do it for a neighborhood. And she goes, that'd be kind of cool. And so we started praying about it. And I was like, my church, and church is the people, it's not the building, right? My church is contractors. That's who you guys are. And right. I said, what do you think about me doing this with like contractor, like virtually? And she's like, man, you should call it contractor fellowship. So we brought that up at Storm into New Era. And so we're going to do a men's group once a week. We still haven't figured out a time. We do know kind of the rules. Love God, love your neighbor. And if you don't love God, maybe you want to come on. Right. But awesome. Those are the rules, man. Nobody's going to hell. Nobody's going to judge you. No, hey, my denomination's better than you or any of that kind of stuff. We're here to grow and be better and lead like Jesus. So we're going to put that out here on Friday. And hopefully I get some help from some of my team to pull that off and help from the other guys, because we'll spearhead it, but it's not going to be just us, and it's not going to cost anything or any of that kind of. That's not why we're doing it. It's like we want to give you that place where you feel safe to have those conversations. So cool. I wasn't even planning on going there today, but just kind of God has His ways, right? He does those things.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you're a super busy guy. You've probably out there got some $1 million project to go sign up today or something like that, right? I always ask this question. It's my last question of everybody that we interview. You told me earlier what your greatest achievement was. And I thought that was really kind of insightful. And I don't know if guys quite got it though, but your greatest achievement was to ask, right? Like you were willing to ask somebody to help you and get you better at what you do. And I think that's a cool way of looking at a great achievement. So this one is, what do you hope people say is your greatest achievement once you're no longer on this planet with the rest of us? And so no more wife and kids, none of that stuff. Can't do any of that. Aside from that, what do you hope people say? And you can always put it like this. What are they saying as they walk past my casket?
Right.
What does that look like? So
that's an awesome question, man. I actually live my life. I've been married for 21 years like you. I've been 25 together. We'll be 22 this year. And when I get old, I want to have all my kids and their grandkids and my wife, and I want to have my family around me, right? And so I make my decisions daily as I am out in the world to make sure to end like that. So, that's pretty simple, that if people can walk by my casket and say, that guy just was who he said he was, lived his life for his family and friends. And I write down every day on my goals, and I write down my goals is that I'm a great husband, I'm a great father, I'm a great friend. So if people say those three things, that'd be awesome.
It's it's funny what you think is what you are, right? Like that. If you have a mantra like that, I really like. Could you say that one more time? That was pretty good. I really liked it.
So I write down that I am a great husband, I am a great father, and I am a great friend. I write that down every day on my daily goals.
That's awesome. Man, good.
So people can walk by my casket and say that, man, he was a great husband, great father, great friend. Then I'm good.
Justin, man, you knocked it out of the park. I hope to see you do more of these. And I hope that they give you this opportunity to spread that light that you are. Awesome. One thing I noticed about you, I noticed it from the very beginning, you were always smiling. You're just a happy person. It seems like it's just natural for who you are.
Enthusiasm, baby. Enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. It just like ebbs out of you. And so I hope that this helps you with your business maybe in some way. Like people get to meet you and see you and say, man, I kind of would like to work for that dude. He seems pretty cool.
Awesome.
And I know that you've helped other people. There's one last comment before we leave. Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh, so is he.
Amen.
Oh, man. Amen, brothers. All right.
Hey, you're awesome. Thanks so much for having me on, Jim.
Yeah. Hey, it was our pleasure. Honestly, our pleasure. Glad to have you. Get out there and kill it. Have a great 2020. And God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.